Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. This is my first video, aside from spending the last 24 hours trying to figure out my Mariah Carey, Barbra Streisand correct angle, and giving up on that entirely because the reality is that I'm never going to be that comfortable on camera. I have decided that I will force myself into putting myself on camera to get this channel started. My intention is for us all to focus on the energies of the planets, through astrology obviously, and tarot, and to find a commonality for all of us to share this journey in a way that is less individualistic and more focused on how we can meet the challenges of these complicated times that just seem to be becoming more and more complex as each day, week, and month go by. I don't know about you guys, but I started out being interested in astrology mainly because I wasn't in the best of places and I was looking for answers. And I came into way more answers than I ever bargained for. I've decided that as part of the process of making this interesting for you and also cathartic for me, I will be intermittently using my own personal experiences. As I say, the last 2 years in particular, since the eclipse cycle of the summer of 2017, my life has been explosive, to say the least. It's almost as if nothing remains of the person that I was, or the circumstances of my life that were at that time. And we are coming into a time of, we are post-completion of those energies as we move into Virgo season 2019. And we're on the verge of the new moon in Virgo, and so I felt it was a perfect time for me to start by sharing these energies with you via tarot. I will be using the Rider-Waite Tarot to pick. First, I'm going to just start by having 3 cards for us to focus on for the upcoming week. And then I will clarify those with the Hermetic Tarot, which I found extremely complicated when I first got it because it has a lot of symbology on it, but it really has turned out to be mind-blowing in so many ways. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm not entirely comfortable with this process. This is my first video, so I hope you'll bear with me, and I hope that I find some kind of flow where I become a little bit more conversational and less self-conscious. I've put a little dot on my camera so that I focus on that dot rather than seeing my own movement in the actual screen. So let's go for this. I'm gonna maybe cut this out because I don't really think you want to hear me shuffle unless you really like the ASMR of shuffling tarot cards, which is entirely possible. But as I do shuffle, I suppose I should go into some of these complex energies that are taking place. We really have been non-stop in shedding our skins and coming into some kind of alignment that none of us seem to really understand. There's still this great sense that we are all sort of purposeful with no sense of what our purpose is. And as our governmental infrastructures and planetary environmental infrastructures seem more and more challenged to be representative of our long-term needs, there's this deep sentiment that we all have to come into our own power and first individually unravel, which I think is the process that we've all been undergoing for quite some time, and then beyond unraveling, come into knowing ourselves, truly knowing ourselves, and then subsequently coming back into the collective and figuring out how to integrate that and make this happen in a way not just for our survival, but for our expansion. And these times do not feel very expansive in terms of what we're observing on a daily basis. It's pretty exhausting. Right now I am in the United Kingdom, and I have to say, there is a sense of enormous disconnect from what is taking place on a government level. People just frankly don't give a fuck, and there's many reasons for that. It's completely understandable. In the same way as the United States, where I'm from, has also been undergoing this challenge for the past few years of not really knowing its identity, being misrepresented, and feeling completely out of step with the people that actually represent us. Well, I believe that on some level this is how we feel individually. It's like our bodies and our minds have been feeling sort of foreign to us. We haven't actually figured out how to fully embody our purposefulness. And as a result, there's become a disconnect. And our entire culture, of course, massively encourages us to separate from our true purpose. And so we're left to do the work. And now I'm going to pick these cards. We're going to see what the energies are. Okay, so we have the Ace of Pentacles. Sorry, it's a glare there. We have the Justice card. And we have the Death card. Well, I don't think that we could be any clearer on the simple fact that this is a completely brand new cycle. And I know that's hard to believe that everyone is going to go through a brand new cycle, but it actually does work that way on a more universal level. The way that the planets affect us individually, of course, differs, but when there's going to be a massive breakdown, we all feel it in some shape or form. It can be emotionally, psychologically, physically, it can be our jobs, it can be our health, it can be our relationships, but on some level, we are at the beginning of a brand new cycle. With the Ace of Pentacles, obviously, there is a great sense of opportunity in the coming week. I feel it. I've actually been stagnant for the majority of the summer, recovering from some pretty difficult psychological, emotional hurdles that were really a question of forcing me to revisit things that were not on solid footing. And without doing that work, I wouldn't have been able to get to where I'm coming into now, which is finally being ready to birth this new chapter. The fact that we have Justice too indicates that we're pretty much looking at a period where we're supported. These choices that we're making are universally ordained in divine time. And then the fact that we have the Death card to round out that trifecta is essentially stipulating just how radical this shift is going to be. I feel like I want to take a few more of these. We have the Magician, the Chariot, and the King of Wands. I mean, it's manifestation season. This is manifestation season with the Magician. Basically, it is time to put your faith in the universe. And, you have all of the elements to do exactly what you need. It's just time to focus on it. It's time to figure it out. It's time to actually take it and put it into action. I think a lot of us have been sitting on a lot of ideas and not actually pushing ourselves, being in a lot of fear, especially after coming through the well, I had a very difficult cancer season, so I'm pretty sure that it was the same for everyone. A lot of going in, internalizing these processes and trying to figure out how to, break free of really, really deep-rooted bad habits, which is where the chariot comes in, because the chariot is really about balancing the subconscious and the conscious mind. And so we're talking about stepping up a level in terms of consciousness. And with the King of Wands, it's a card of massive self-confidence in doing so. And I don't know about you guys, but, well, I'm actually sitting here doing this, so I guess that is testament to the simple fact that I've been sitting around not doing this for quite some time with every intention of doing it, knowing that I have little experience in putting together videos and that this may not be the best of my output and that is yet to come. I'm going to take some cards from the Hermetic Tarot. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of this. This is an interesting deck. It was actually the first one that I bought, and it had been years since I read tarot. And for some reason, I was allergic to the idea of starting with the Rider-Waite tarot deck because I thought that it was too basic, because I was probably very caught up in my Uranus and Aries individuation process and thought somehow that I needed to start way beyond my capacity. Now, the cards within themselves are actually the same, but the representations on them, the thing with the Rider-Waite is that obviously the pictures make it way easier to interpret the cards in many ways. But these cards are way more complex, and they actually get into a lot of Kabbalistic stuff that I'm not prepared to go into today without sounding way out of my element, but I will prepare videos on things like that in the future. As for channeling, because I know that that's obviously something that comes up for people that do YouTube videos, I do occasionally channel. I have never tried to do so, certainly not on camera, and generally it's always been more of an intuitive process for me, but maybe I'm going to try to explore that because, well, I'm here to serve a purpose to other people, not myself. So I just give this a little bit more of a shuffle here. We've got a jumper, the chariot again. Okay, well, that pretty much confirms the need for that balance between the subcard. The death card again. Seven of Swords, sorry. So, Ten of Cups, the Fool, and the Emperor. Now, what I really like about these cards is, first of all, that, well, the Seven of Swords is much less suggestive of deceit, which I kind of like, because I never really see the Seven of Swords as defeat. I think it as deceit, defeat. I guess they're the same thing, essentially. I think it's more a sense of a lack of self-confidence in the way that we go about things. So there's a real emphasis on needing to go inside and figure out ways to convince ourselves to feel the flow and know our true capacity. It's really easy to want to cower away from things, and especially when you're trying to jumpstart something new in your life and you've been feeling stuck. Now, the fact that we have the Death card and the Chariot again, obviously that's major confirmation of what we've already discussed, but I like the fact that essentially we're also looking at brand new starts. Again, the Fool, the Death card, the Death card, the Ace of Pentacles. All of these essentially spell a brand new chapter. And what's really nice is we have the Ten of Cups. And we all know what that means. This card, hopefully you can see it properly. I know it's backwards, but I mean, how plentiful is that? And if that's where we're headed, I'm all for it. We also have the Emperor. The Emperor essentially, I think, means that we also need to start taking ourselves a little bit more seriously, stepping into that energy of ownership, self-confidence again. I mean, these are two pretty strong masculine energies. Before we go any further, I would like to preface that masculine energies are carried by all of us. I'm sure you've heard it a million times before, but we are all on a journey to figuring out how to embody the divine masculine and the divine feminine. So any interpretation of the tarot cards in terms of sex is something that is completely universal. Sorry about that, people. I had a sneezing attack, and didn't really think that you'd want to share that with me. I decided I was going to pull more from the top of the Rider-Waite deck, and we have the Wheel of Fortune, the Ace of Wands. I guess you don't need to see them all. The Three of Swords. We'll get into that. The Ten of Pentacles, the Nine of Pentacles, and finally the Knight of Pentacles. I don't know why I always find him boring. Well, let's go further. We'll just take the Eight of Wands to end. So pretty much, again, further confirmation of that change of a cycle. We really are. I feel it. I know it. And the fact that we have another ace, the Ace of Wands, pretty much means that we're at the beginning of massive opportunities. And then looking at the simple fact that we also have the Knight of Pentacles in there. There's that ace again. Do we have the Ace of Pentacles? Yeah. He's carrying that ace. See? It's always nice when somebody else brings the pentacle to you. Let's keep our fingers crossed for that. This, I know, problematic. Nobody likes seeing the Three of Swords. But the reason that this doesn't really matter is because it's actually telling us that we're healing from this. I know it's always, a question of context, but this is what this Virgo energy is all about, this Virgo new moon. It feels like we've been going through the ringer for so long and just constantly churning up shit from the abyss of our lives, but you have to do that in order to birth into a new cycle, and I feel like this is, from these cards, pretty massive. We are actually finally there. It's been a long time coming, but all of that emotional turmoil, psychological turmoil, fear, self-loathing, whatever it is. We could get into so many different adjectives that obviously the fact that I'm coming out with those is pretty indicative of where I've come from. We're letting go of that. I feel it. I know that there's a part of me that is coming to finally understand that I don't give a shit what other people think about me. Not because I don't care about other people, but because if people love you, then there's people that are going to hate you. If there's people that approve of what you're doing, there's going to be people that disapprove of what you're doing. I'm not entirely prepared for the possibility that people will watch this and that I get a bunch of comments from people that have nothing but awful, horrible things to say about the way my face looks or the way that I talk or whatever, or that they don't like the way that I'm reading right now, because I actually am reading completely intuitively. Normally I would follow an actual layout, but that's not how it came to me today. But I also know that there's going to be people out there who are going to appreciate what I'm doing, find something in it that they can take away and integrate into their own lives. And if that happens for 3 people, and then there's 1,000 people that hate it, that's still power, you know? Because the people who hate it will have just wasted their time. The people that got something from it, albeit in the minority, will take that and do something positive with it. That's where we all have to come from, no matter what part of our lives we're talking about. And that's kind of where I'm at, and this is what this is all about. If this weren't my only deck, I would take it and like tear it in two to show you exactly what that means. But essentially, imagine that I'm tearing it in two and casting it aside. Because we get the 9 of Pentacles and the 10 of Pentacles. I can't remember which one came first. I think it was the 10 of Pentacles that came first, and then the 9. Either way, if this came first, it's the contentment in the outside world, it's the fulfillment in the outside world that will lead to this self-fulfillment. And if it was the other way around, they're both pretty cool. And that's where we're headed. And the end confirmation with the 8 of Wands is that this is going to be coming via communication. What doesn't come via communication? But it's going to be happening. It is going to be happening. Now, because I didn't really know how I was going to formulate this, I decided that I would end by just talking a tiny little bit about my own emotional experiences of this year, and end with a quote by Aldous Huxley to sort of take us into this new moon in Virgo energy of understanding just how much we have the power to heal ourselves. And part of that is also not comparing ourselves to other people, knowing that we all individually carry something that nobody else does, that we're unique, and that it's in this uniqueness that we find our power. And it really doesn't matter whether you are of any ethnicity, any sexuality, any whatever else. I don't even know why I'm trying to like list them all. We're all the same at the end of the day, and we all have a common purpose, and that's to better ourselves in order to better our environment. So I came across this quote from Aldous Huxley. Look him up if you don't know anything about him. And I'm going to read it, so forgive me for not looking at the camera. The real hopeless victims of mental illness are to be found among those who appear to be most normal. Many of them are normal because they are so well adjusted to our mode of existence, because their human voice has been silenced so early in their lives that they do not even struggle or suffer or develop symptoms as the neurotic does. They are normal not in what may be called the absolute sense of the word. They are normal only in relation to a profoundly abnormal society. Their perfect adjustment to the abnormal society is a measure of their mental sickness. These millions of abnormally normal people living without fuss in a society to which, if they were fully human beings, they ought not to be adjusted. That's fucking deep and fucking true. So on that note, I'm going to leave you with that to ponder, because if you feel like you're on the outside, think about that and turn it around. I'm sending you all love, and I'm really looking forward to this journey together.
And if you want to cry, I am here to dry your eyes. And in no time, you'll be fine. You think I'd leave your side, baby? You know me better than that. Think I'd leave you down when you're down on your knees. I'd never do that. I'll tell you right when you're wrong. If only you could see into me. Oh, when you're cold, I'll be there to hold you tight to me. Oh, when you're low, I'll be there by your side, baby. Oh, when you're cold, I'll be there and hold you tight to me. Oh,